ladies and gentlemen, this is a video on the 30, 60, 90 triangle. So, this is one of two special right triangles, guys, a 30, 60, 90 triangle. I hope you agree that one of the special triangles that we actually use and design and build with is the equilateral triangle. And what makes it cool and special is the fact that all three sides are the same, right? And since all three sides are the same, all three angles are the same. And we all know that a triangle always has 180 degrees inside of it. So if I just did a little math and took 180 and divided by 3, well, I would realize that all three angles have to be 60 degrees, correct? 60 degrees. Okay. So let me just clean it up here a little bit. So hopefully you agree all three angles are 60 degrees. So notice we know everything about this triangle that's important except, well, let's give it some dimensions here. Let's say this side here is 10, right? And so therefore each side is 10. And we might as well give it units, so we'll call them meters. 10 meters. M for meters, right? So now we have this perfect equilateral triangle, each side 10 meters. We know all the angles are always going to be 60 degrees inside. So notice we really know everything about this triangle that's important perhaps, except for its height. Except for its height. Now using our common sense, what is this altitude going to do here, this height, to that 60-degree angle on top? Well, hopefully you agree, hey, you know what? That 60-degree angle is actually going to be split in two by this altitude, right? So therefore, I know that the angles up here are going to be 30 apiece. So notice our equilateral triangle now is really a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Two of them, right? So let's just take a look at one of the 30, 60, 90 triangles and apply a little more common sense here. And I want you to also notice, guys, since each side is 10, what is the altitude or height going to do down here to the base? Isn't it going to split it in half? So we now know that the base is now split in half and each of these sides is 5 meters. Okay? Again, it's going to split in half, right? Okay. So now notice we know everything about the triangle. And I'm just going to redraw the left side, guys. So here we have just the left half of our equilateral triangle. We know, of course, the bottom angle's 60, top angle's 30. We have, of course, the 90-degree angle there. And again, this came from the left half right there, right? Okay, so what else do we know? Well, we know that if one side is 10 meters, we now know the short side is 5 meters. The only thing missing still is our height. But we can use Pythagorean theorem, right? So I'm just going to call this side my B side. Okay? And I know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And doing a little math, that means 25 is 5 squared plus b squared equals 10 squared 100. We're going to minus 25 both sides. So b squared 75. And to find b, we're going to square root b squared, right? So b ends up being the square root of 75. But let's simplify that. So I'm going to take 75. Remember, it's a square root, actually. Let's go ahead and prime factor it. 3 times 25, 5 times 5. So our b is really, if you notice, 2 square root of 5, of course, times together makes a regular 5. And notice the extra 3, square root of 3. So now I know my b up here is 5 square root of 3. Now there's a pattern involved with this, guys. I could have done this over and over again. Besides using 10 meters, I could have used 6 meters. I could have used any other dimension, and you'll end up with the same pattern, okay? What is that pattern? Well, notice the hypotenuse is always going to be double. Are you following the green here, guys? The hypotenuse is always going to be double, or the short side times 2, isn't it? 5 times 2 is 10, okay? And the medium side, follow the green, guys, notice, is the same as the short side, except I times it by a square root 3. So just to reiterate, guys, let me go to the next page here. Pause the video if you need to, by the way. Okay, so what I'm saying here is, notice I'm going to do a series of 30, 60, 90 triangles. But first, let me just illustrate here. If I was to redraw this triangle in problem 10, notice that the purple side is my short side, right? And what I'm saying is, whatever that side is, let's call it x, I know that the hypotenuse in red is always going to be 2 times that. And the medium side in green is always going to be the same as the short side times square root of 3. So again, pause the video and study that a little bit if you want. But picking up the pace here a little bit, guys. Notice in our problem, already know the short side is 3. So what is the hypotenuse? 2 times 3 is 6. Okay. What about the medium side? It's going to be the same as the short side, 3 times what? Square root of 3. Okay. Now, guys, we could have solved this problem using, SOHCAHTOA, trigonometry, but the 30, 60, 90 is very special. Its ratios of its sides you should memorize, and it's going to pay dividends all the way through the rest of your math career. You ought to know the 30, 60, 90. Also, it helps for those college prep tests and SATs. Okay? Let's try a couple more. So notice, here's our triangle here. Hope you agree that it's upside down, so the y is my short side. And they gave us the hypotenuse this time, didn't they? So going backwards, that means I have to take 4 divided by 2, right? And I know y is therefore got to be 2. Again, going forward, notice that 2 times 2 would give me 4, right? So I have my short side. So now, what about the medium side over here? Well, that's just simply going to be the same 2, except I times it by what? Square root of 3. It's that simple, guys. Okay? Pause the video again if you need to. Got a couple more here, guys. Notice again, if you look at this triangle, the base is now my short side, and they gave us the medium side. Ooh. Now, what's going to help you guys is I'm just going to redraw it here for reference. Does everybody agree if the base is my short side, remember the hypotenuse is always double that, 2 times that, and the medium side is square root of 3 times x, right? Square root of 3 times the x side, the short side. Correct? So, notice, guys, I'm just going to set up a little equation right here to find my x side here. Now, let's not confuse it with the x they gave us here. That's a hypotenuse, okay? But we're going to find all three sides just to make sure we understand. So my short side x is going to be found this way. I know that the square root of 3x, look right up here, square root of 3 times x, that is got to equal 6 somehow. So solving that, I'm going to divide by square root of 3. And now I need to rationalize my answer here. So I'm going to times by square root 3 over square root 3. So I'm going to get 6 square root of 3 over 3, because square root 3 times square root 3 is 3, right? And notice 6 divided by 3 is 2. So now I know that the missing short side right over here, let me clean up my mess. So go back to the left picture, guys. I now know that this down here is 2 square root of 3. So now what is the hypotenuse? The x that they gave us in the problem has got to be just simply 2 times. So I'm going to times by 2 here and get 4 square root of 3. Okay? So I think I have one more. Let's look at this one right here. Notice this time, guys, they gave us the hypotenuse. So can we find the short side I just marked in green? Wouldn't we simply just divide by 2? Divide by 2, and we'll get 6 square root of 3. And now, can we find the medium side over there? Wouldn't that just simply be the 6 square root of 3 times another square root of 3? And square root 3 times square root 3 is a regular 3, right? Square root of 9 is 3. So 6 times 3 means my final answer they wanted was 18. So guys, pause the video for one last time. The bottom line, guys, is following the blue. Remember, the shortest side is always half the hypotenuse, or the hypotenuse is always double the short side. And you can always use that simple ratio of 2 to find either of those two sides respectively. Remember, the medium side, as I did in the problem right here, is the square root 3 times as big as the shortest side. And that is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Until next time, bye.